everybody, how is it going? Welcome to Gaming Over 30. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How about yourself?
Good so far. And today we have another kind of interesting topic I want to ask you. But for everybody who doesn't know, who hasn't seen yet, don't forget we are on Spotify. Yes. You know what else? Apple Podcasts. Anchor, and probably some other ones. I know there's a Google one out there, but we have audio versions of the podcast out for you to enjoy. That way, if you don't need to see our faces, and you know what, didn't have like a good kind of trim, like right now, I'm kind of halfway into my trim. But if you just don't want to see all this and you like my voice instead, you can go to the audio podcast, listen to these episodes at your leisure. But for now, welcome to episode 20 of Gaming Over 30. My name is DuShaun Williams. This is Christopher Makata. And Christopher, I got a question for you. Anime-based games. What do you think about them?
They can be fun. Usually they're bad though. That's been my experience for the most part. I've to the point where I was hurt so many times during the PS2 era that when it came to the 360 and moving on forward, I was like, we'll see about this anime game. What about you?
You know what? You're kind of saying it a little bit for me, but for most cases, I do like anime games. But I also make some lines in the sand of which ones I'm talking about, kind of thing. It's kind of like the whole like, you know what? I do like anime inspired games, anime style games, and
Yep.
maybe some games that felt like they have a home to be in a genre. But I'm not really a fan of games that are like, hey, you love this anime game. We're gonna make a game of the whole season that you watch. Not really a big fan of that. So today I want to kind of go over these feelings that I've been holding inside for a while and talk about anime games and whether or not we really like them, really hate them, or are they objectively bad in this case? Because there's a ton of them that have been out, and I've played a few during my time, especially around that PS2 era when pretty much they were making games for almost anything, which was a pretty great era to be in.
Yep.
But it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, how many Dragon Ball Z games came out in that single era? You know, how many Naruto games have come out in that era? And now we're still looking at My Hero Academia games. Now we're looking at Black Clover games. Now we're looking at, you know what, just throw them together games.
You remember when everybody had the hype for Jump Force and everyone thought it was gonna be the greatest thing ever?
I never thought it was going to be the greatest thing ever. I'm not sure where you heard that noise. It's fake news. Because for
Nah.
sure, like, I already knew it was like, hey, does that game play like Dragon Ball Tenkaichi? Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. It's like I understand what they want to do. It's like, hey, we got some gods and they're like just punching each other across the stage. Not really. A lot of times that's not really like my best combat. And so those are kind of one of the things that I've noticed about those type of games where like I kind of like chill off for it. Where it's just like it doesn't have that kind of style. It's really hard for me to like it.
Gotcha.
So I
Oh,
already knew that game wasn't gonna do like this best. Like it had like a nice cast of characters. Like, hey, I could play Yukimoto for some reason, but I can. So it's all like it's in the spirit of hey, I could get to play these different types of characters and really kind of like what's going on. But it's at the same time, I was just kind of like, yeah, but it has to be fun too. And a lot of times, a lot of those games don't necessarily end up being fun for me.
yeah. Jump Force I never got into even when it came to Game Pass at that point because they were like, it's not making money. Let's put it on Game Pass. Hopefully, it'll bring a revival. And my son actually got into it. Like he played a lot of matches with his friends online and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I would jump in with him here and there, and I was just like, what? Like it was fun playing against them and like beating their butt because they didn't know how to do fighting games very very well.
Yeah, bully.
Hey, I may be a dad, but I got to beat them up still. You got to train them.
Hmm.
But after that, I just had no intention of playing it, and then I think I enjoyed playing Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Dragon Fighters with the Z at the end. It's
Yeah.
really weird how they named that one. That was fun to play and stuff like that too, but I didn't get super into it. And then I think the last one I wanted to try but I didn't try that I heard was supposed to be pretty good was Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
You know, Fighter Z was probably one of my more favorite, like from anime to game kind of thing. Not because of the story, because the story was pretty bad in there, and it was also very like this is gonna put me to sleep if I have to go through this, and a lot of times it did. It's like it just wasn't really hitting at that time. But when it came to like the gameplay and all that, I'm like that was up my alley. They actually made that extremely fun, extremely more fast paced. But I liked it because it was extremely accessible. Like almost anybody could really pick it up. A lot of the button combinations were very simplistic, especially from the same people who made like games like Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue and all that. Like where there's some complicated stuff that they do in there, and this one was like, nope, punching, kicking, bouncing. You know, like we'll do all the other crazy things. And when you watch gameplay of it, I'm like, oh, you know, this looks extremely fun. But those are one of those times where it's like, okay, we're gonna make these characters that normally fight, let's put them in a fighting game. So like those are kind of like on my side where I'm like, I really like this way of going about it. You know, like to me, fighting games like this are a little bit easier to kind of do like a better transition and stuff because you kind of get to have a chance to kind of like play a lot of the different characters. In Dragon Ball Z, there's a ton of characters and there's not too much deviation from them besides like their special moves. But I think that's why they can crank out more characters than most kind of like cross games like this. But I just feel that, you know, a lot of times, like, I'm a little bit more interested in this kind of case. Like, I don't necessarily interested in like literally playing through like a story of like, oh, you remember the Cell Saga? Yeah, of course I did. I probably watched it like 5 times as a kid. It's like, do you want to play it? Not really, because I kind of know what's gonna happen. I don't want to pay $60 for something like I know is gonna happen. You know?
Right. I uh I will say the one game I actually really enjoyed and I'm gonna get back into it and see what happens when they start actually updating it. Is the Gundam Evolution game that came out. I think just recently to consoles, but like in October it came out for PC, and that's that free to play Overwatch type of game and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
outside that one's really really fun to play. The each Gundam feels different in it and stuff like that, and you can feel the different skill sets you need to play which one you are, whether you're a supporting cast, a healer, or like a tank and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And you could definitely tell at the time that there was like some balance issues in it, but the core of the gameplay was really really fun, and that's one I do want to check out since it's been updated more often.
And so I kind of like those type of games because again, it's like a genre that kind of fits like the anime itself. Like, you know, your big giant robots, but what do they mostly do? Cut things with a beam sword or shoot things with a gun. Like there isn't any like, you know, crazy special moves and stuff. It's either cut, shoot, or shoot with bigger gun. It's a little bit easier to kind of see it that way when you're just like, oh, 5v5 with like different guns. Like I see that. Um, have you played a lot of the other type of Gundam games that have come out?
I've played a couple, but I don't know if I didn't stick along with them for very very long.
So like I used to had played I think on the PlayStation. I had the book somewhere. Gundam Battle Assault, I think is what it's called. This was an actual like 1v1 fighting game with like different Gundams. And it was kind of fun, but you could tell that they didn't balance a lot of stuff because it was like, oh, like I could see you get to play all your cool favorite Gundam characters. They had Gundam Wing, they had a lot of Universal Century stuff like that. But then they also like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like some characters that like don't have any, how would I say, like consequences for some of their moves, and they can just spam it. So there's a Gundam called like Gundam Double Z that you literally would just beam rifle your opponent to death. And we're talking about like half
Really?
screen, like you can't hardly really dodge it, beam rifle. And it was a basic attack. Like I'm just gonna just boom, boom, boom. Like it just kept going in an order. And it was just like this is insanely crazy. Like, why is this in the game? Versus like everybody else that's like, oh, everybody's like close fighter and stuff. They have a gun, but it's like a lot of times like Wing Gundam is more like a special than it is like, oh, I'm just gonna keep firing my little rifle. Now this guy had just had cannons basically come out, and it's like, how do I fight that? I think stuff like that. But at least that was kind of fun, like in his own case, goes across over all Gundams.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Gundam itself kind of got into like some different aspects, like the Dynasty Warriors type of
I was
Gundam.
about to bring that one up. That was fun.
Yeah, and so that again, I feel like it kind of translate a little bit better because it's like, oh, okay, well, you're just kind of just shooting a lot of stuff. only you're kind of mowing down a lot of things. That's kind of what the Gundam anime kind of does a little bit. It's like, there's 3 enemy mobile suits. They could take on the novice Gundam. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's kind of on brand, but it's also one of those like, yeah, but we're still kind of mimicking the story. It's just now instead of a 25-minute episode, I play like an hour-long stage. It's like, oh, don't you gotta get over here, you gotta do this, you gotta do all of this and all. And it's all like, yeah, I already know what to do. So quit telling me what to do.
It was kind of like it was a guilty pleasure because I'm not gonna say these games were good, but every once in a while, if I could find it for super super cheap, or a couple of times, a couple of them like popped up on when Game Pass first started, stuff like that on Game Pass, and that was the Naruto, the Ultimate Ninja Storm games.
Mm-hmm.
Like those were some of the ones where I know the gameplay is not great. I know it's a very okay. You play this, cut out, go back, walk around this very dead, empty village to get your next quest, and not really do anything, and then move on to the next one, and then go back. But I guess the art style of the way they did it and everything just really got to me, and I would just like to like sit around, have like a drink or two, and then just play the game and just go on my little Naruto adventure and be the best Naruto I could be, even though I knew exactly what was gonna happen and everything. But it was fun.
I feel like they really try with the Naruto games, even though it kind of talks about the same thing. I would like that whole like how they kind of do like that 3D space kind of like fighting. It's always that. I don't know why I just couldn't really get on board with it as much. But like the Naruto games basically like lived and died on that style. Except they're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, but you also got your 2 ninja homies that can jump in when necessary, kind of thing. I was like, yeah, but that didn't really still do it for me. It's like, uh, I it's like when you know about it, but you're like, yeah, I guess I don't care as much. I guess that's what it came down to it. I think for me, like the gameplay in this case has to be like kind of really special for me to kind of really get into it. But I know like a lot of the anime games kind of did like that same type of 1v1 kind of fighting.
Yeah. Um, what is your thoughts about games that kind of become an anime later?
Oh, games that become an anime later. I guess it's pointless. I guess the best way to say it's like I don't mind it as much if because there are some times where an anime could do a great adaptation, but Persona, for instance,
Hmm.
like the Persona RPG is a very like you're really in it kind of RPG. Like you're really kind of like living step by step everything. And basically, the anime was like, well, we're gonna try to cut out like boring stuff, like going to school. Like maybe that's not really a big thing that needs to be put in anime form, right? So it's like,
Right.
yeah, like that's how I would see it. But then you also realize, like, sometimes they kind of go a little bit slower than your pace because you already kind of know what's gonna happen again. And so, like, it's 12 to 25 episodes of kind of like a retelling of like a big game that could be like 100 hours. So like for me as someone who would have played the game already, the anime kind of really doesn't do it for me because it's like, oh, I'll watch it because I know it's good, but at the same time, it's like there are just some parts where it's like, it's it's not as exciting. Um, there's some other ones that are like that where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna just get like a whole game and stuff. I know they're gonna do it for the Tales, and I think for some of the Tales it was a little bit easier because I haven't played all the Tales games, and so like the Tales anime was a good way of like summarizing it, and sometimes the animation for it was really good. I also kind of ran into that part where it's like, oh, like they'll do like a whole good 2 episodes, and that's it. Game over. We're
Ouch.
done. We're not going to do anything else. And it's like, oh, now I'm interested. But now I'm like, but that like a promo for me to go back to the game because I mean that would have been a really good promo, right? Like you play that at the beginning, and then it's like the game comes out in 3 days. That's a promo,
The
But
credit, either that or like the game's already been out. They make the anime and then the credits run at the end. It's like on still on Steam right now or something like that.
yeah, because then that makes sense to me. Like, oh, the
Yeah.
game came out or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, but here's 2 episodes of like the banking first 30 minutes of the game, and it's like, okay, I'll do it, even though I won't get that same experience, but that seems better to me. I guess it seems a little bit more reasonable, but it's like, yeah, it's like if you already played the game, then like kind of everything else is just them trying to keep the IP alive.
Yeah.
And like Persona is one of those that's like, yeah, we're gonna keep trying to get this IP alive. Like, yeah, no, it's a fun game, but you don't have literally have to put it in everything. It's like,
Yeah. Persona is another one where it wasn't 5 for me, but it was Persona 4. I ended up watching the anime of that, and it was the same thing where I was just like, okay, this is kind of boring. I like the game a lot better. You get to go in more details and stuff like that. You kind of get more feels towards you when you're playing the game and everything for because
mhm.
you actually get to choose the interactions and stuff like that. And the anime sometimes chooses interactions that I wouldn't personally choose, and I'm like, oh no, don't go down that path.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's a lot of extra effort to put into something that's like you've already sold. It's like you can't it's really hard to get a buyer or customer to buy the same product twice. And the only reason why is because they returned their first one or they needed to buy it because the first one broke. It's one of the only times that they ever buy something twice of the same thing. And well, unless they have a girlfriend or boyfriend, they're like, yeah, we want to play the same game, but local co-op is not a thing anymore. It's like,
Right.
that's probably like the one time where it's like I can see that kind of little bit out of the spectrum and stuff like that. But mostly it's just kind of like when you're trying to really sell the same concept, it's just in a different way. It's really hard. Like it's different when you're saying like, oh, we made the video game and now we made a card game. It's like these two things are definitely separate. Like one is just separate in its own right. It has its own rules. You get to interact with the media a different way, while the original content stays where it's at. But like if it was just kind of like, hey, I made the video game and then I made the video novel, and then it's like, why on God's green earth where I play the video novel or visual novel when I could just play the game like again, like new game plus. It's like,
But when it comes to the card game, I mean, don't you want to hold your waifu in your hand
yeah,
instead of on the screen?
but they actually sell. I'm not sure if you heard. They sell these figures. Good old 10-inch figures that have it for some reason in great detail and all other stuff that probably shouldn't be detailed in, and you can get that and get satisfaction a lot quicker. I don't know. I never have done it myself,
But
but
can you be at work and just be kind of bored and pull out your wallet and be able to be like, oh look, there's a picture of my waifu. You can't carry that figure to work.
yeah, except we
Just
all
saying.
we all have the waifus all downloaded right here, sir. It's like we don't even need to go that far. And quite honestly, you probably don't want to pull that stuff out at work anyway. It's like that's a step too far, sir. Step too far. But
It's almost 2023. You got to be yourself at this point.
yeah, true. So for me, like actually like anime games based off the anime, I'm not like the biggest fan of it. Like it's definitely to me is it's almost a non-sell because a lot of the times like I kind of know what it is and what you're trying to sell to me. Maybe something I may be interested in, but quite honestly, I feel like it falls flat for me. But when it comes to like anime style, anime inspired games, I think that's where they kind of really get me in a niche. So like I've already said it probably multiple times, but like I play Epic 7, and what got me into that game was a
Never
lot
heard of it.
like, yeah. I was like, well, if you ever heard of Epic 7, sir, let me go ahead through a synapse of it. But basically, it's a gacha game that found out let's sell anime waifus and then we'll get all the dollars. And they got all my dollars. So I had a chance to, play that, and I was like, oh, I love all the animation, like all the, players. I like all the sprites. That's what I want. I'll play this. So it's one of those like it's not doesn't have an anime to it. Although this is probably one of these cases, but back to your old question, where if like they actually made an anime of this, like I definitely be on board on it. Because there's just
Yeah.
sometimes where it's like you watch the visual novel and then you're like, what would be cool if they were moving more? What would be cool if when they were punching, you saw the punch rather than the shake. Kitty Debbie, I don't know. Maybe I'm maybe weird in that, but when things go from not moving to moving, I always feel like that's a plus. That's evolution to me. But when it comes to this, like I would probably see the anime of it, and pretty much their tagline is "play the anime." That's basically how that's their like one liner, how they sell everything, like play the anime. So those are one of those times where it's like I would do that, but I do kind of like, that style of type of game where a lot of it's kind of central like that. The story works out really well, and it's just to me it's more visually appealing. Because they kind of
Gotcha.
hint at more anime stuff.
Um, I don't know. I think I'm a little bit opposite when it comes to that one. Like, I am excited for the Nier Automata anime that's coming out. I think the end of this month or beginning next month.
As next season.
Yeah, like I'm excited for that one, and I played the prequel game that they came out with and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed that. And then I've been meaning to play Nier Automata, and this is one of those other ones that's kind of letting the fight around my butt. Where I need to play this, and I need to play The Last of Us, so I could be in the know for when I watch it.
Well, I mean, the
But
last one would be live action, so
and then like the other one I want to check out, I because I have it, I bought it, but I haven't played it. Is Scarlet Nexus.
oh yeah.
Like I like playing the demo out of that I had, and so I got the game on sale, and then I want to play the game, but then I heard the anime is pretty much just a game, but I still want to watch it because it's one of those things where, to kind of see what their perspective of putting it into an anime looks like compared to playing it in the game, since that's one of those ones where I just enjoy the gameplay of that one more than the full story. So it'd be
Hmm.
fine just to like turn my brain off and just watch that anime.
Yeah, and to be fair to Scarlet, the story kind of goes along the same path. It may have some different nuances to it for how like it gets to the end, because like the end of the game and then the end of that are kind of slightly different in that aspect. But it's also trying to find a way, which I think is most important, is taking the two stories and merging them into one, rather than you playing one side and then playing the other side. So like if
Right.
you want like a quick like, oh, I didn't play the girl. Let me what was her story? What was her deal? What did she had to go through? Then I think the anime works in that aspect. But if you're like, oh well, I was gonna play New Game Plus anyway, then it's kind of like, yeah, you're just kind of overdosing yourself. But it's a quick anime. I think it's only is 12 episodes.
Like 12 episodes, which 12 episodes are easy to fly by through.
Yeah, yeah, that's like a night. So it's like
Hmm.
you can get through it. So it's not too bad. So you could kind of see it as more of a speed run of the game, because the game's more just action. Like, hey, we have enough story, and then they let you go straight down the corridor and beat up things. So
Yeah,
this is more like even more straightforward than that. But at least you kind of get a little bit more of the feelings of the character. So I'd say like the anime wasn't too bad. If anything, what sucked about me watching anime is I was watching the anime at the same time I was playing the game.
mm,
So it's just kind of like, oh, if I get too far, then I kind of already know what the game is gonna do.
yeah,
And if I don't play, if I play the game, it was just kind of like the weird like balance and stuff. Like I can't tell if it was a good thing or a bad thing at the time, but that was like the only time that I was able to do both.
nice. Um, what are some of your favorite anime games from like the past that you played that like have a close place to your heart?
Anime style or like anime base?
Anime based. Let's start there.
That's really difficult, because like I said, like Gundam was one that like I've kind of brought up, but it was like one of those extra things. The Japanese Dragon Ball Z game was also one thing that I played back then, but it was one of those like you really couldn't play Japanese games over here because of the region rock. So when you were able to
Yes,
kind of hack the PlayStation to play it, that was kind of like the gem right there. Like, ooh, I get to play. It's like you found a way to kind of hit it there. But like anime based games, honestly, I don't think there is one where personally like I was like, yeah, I remember this forever. It's mainly
really.
like it'll probably hit me later in the conversation, but there's not one that's like was actually based on an anime where I was like, I love like the game counterpart to it.
I think one of the ones I know for sure that I remember stuff like that, and I've talked about it before a little bit, is the Fullmetal Alchemist game. They came out for
Mm,
PS2. Like,
uh, hate that game.
I loved it. I don't know why. I loved it so much that I would keep renting it because I didn't own it, to the point where my parents got it to me for Christmas at one point because I'm pretty sure they were able to get it cheap somewhere.
Yeah,
But they just knew I would rent it so much and played it. And it wasn't the best game, but I just had so much fun. I didn't get to
yeah,
be my favorite character, but it was still fun being at work and making the dumb little freaking some instance of what is alchemy with his dumb little face and hair and all that stuff. I enjoyed it.
It's funny because in Epic 7, like that was one of the last collabs was Full Metal Alchemist. And the thing that I was more mad about it is they didn't allow you to get Alphonse. Like he was just like he was like an extra character animation for like Edward's like final like a move, but you couldn't
No
actually.
way.
But then they're like, okay, but we'll give you Roy Mustang and we'll give you the lieutenant. And I'm all like, I don't care about this chick. Why is she here?
You
You
talking
gave up
about Hawkeye?
Oh well, no, Hawkeye, or yeah, Hawkeye, yeah, the lieutenant.
Yeah, she's the best. How dare you?
They
She
didn't
is the
treat her
waifu
right.
of this show.
They did
Uh,
not treat her right. So I'll tell you that much. Not enough to where it's like, oh yeah, like I would go for this versus like I rather just Alphonse just punch something. Like or at least Scar. Like it was one of those things where it was like I thought Scar would have been here. Like somehow they got him in there for some reason. Because normally they always get like two good guys and like the bad guy, right? Or
yeah.
like any of the many cooler bad guys from the entire show. But it's just like, yeah, I thought they would have did that. So when they brought like her, I was just kind of like, yeah, no, that's not doing it for me. I don't know why she's here. Like they made her work on the story just fine, but it was just kind of like, yeah, but she didn't add anything to the story either. Like
I
basically the
feel
whole
you.
story of Roy Mustang kind of figured everything out by himself, kind of thing.
I mean, he is the best. He's the best boy for sure.
Yeah, and they did his animation like boss, like it looked cool. So, when you're just burning something down the alley, that's cool. But
Oh yeah.
I will say, like, if anything, that was probably like my worst experience game because I remember it so much because it was just like I don't understand the point of any of this. Like I was just literally just sitting there like, why did they make this game? I still
Because it's
have it. I know
fun.
it's back there. I think I saw it in the game room
Oh
because
my god.
one of my friends had it and just left it with me and said nothing. And then it was just like, this is mine now, kind of thing. And it was like, okay, whatever. But it was just like, man, not feeling it. I think
If
I didn't even go past the first stage.
if you have that game, when I go over next year, I will take it off your hands because I have a PS2. I just need to buy the cords so I can plug it in, and I will play it.
I'll see you play it over here because I too have a PS2. So if you need to get your fill, you're always more than welcome.
Dude, I'll be down. We'll play it in your freaking game room.
Heck yeah. Finally getting that together. Finally gonna figuring out how lights work. It's amazing.
Nice.
I need to show that off too, but I need to show when it's actually ready. Then I'll be able to do like all the Instagram stuff. And have an Instagram page that just shows different corners of it.
Heck
Today I
yeah.
was in this corner. Everything looks nice. Same colors, no change.
Uh, are you setting up to be like a immersive type of thing where it goes with the movie or whatever you're watching, or just sliding?
It's more of like in this room in particularly, I just want to make sure everything was unison. That like I could go to an app and control stuff individually or control stuff like as one whole thing. So in that room, I decided I was gonna do everything Govy because I really didn't want to spend a lot of money, and Govy kind of like I've been buying their product for a little bit to kind of understand where they fall off and where they pretty much excel at. And pretty much in that space works well. So like with these like nano lights right here, they're very particular, right? Like
Yeah.
now they have like cheaper versions of this. But with this one, like I understand its intricacies, what's wrong with it and all that. And even right now, how I have it set up, I set it up wrong because I forgot that you can't do more than 30 panels on a single cord.
Mm.
And I forgot that, and once they're already on the wall, you have to rip it off the wall to like do the detached part, and so it
Oh,
doesn't really help out. So
yeah.
it's like I just kind of, but it works now, and if I don't do it at 100% all the time, it's not like this is on all the time. So if I don't do it 100% all the time, I don't really feel like it's the problem. But like I understand like what's wrong with it and stuff like that. So and it's pretty modular to what I needed to do. But like Govy sometimes will be like, "Hey, we're gonna give you 100-foot cable," and you're like, "Yeah, 100-foot cable. I know how to do with 100-foot cable." And then they tell you, "But it comes in two cables." And it's like, "What was the point of that?" And you can't extend it. well, what's the point of that? And
Yeah,
it's like I wanted to buy two 100 cables so that way I could just do like the whole perimeter. Like I had like a whole. I know this is a tangent, but I had like a whole plan for my backyard where I was gonna take their hanging lights that they're like you can change colors and stuff. And I was
yeah.
gonna put it all around the fence of the backyard.
Okay,
Now it would have got me light in the backyard because we didn't have a lot of lights back there. So like some parts are a lot darker and you just can't see anything, and you really want to kind of see what's on your foot. Um, a lot of the other times, like it was like, oh, but it was cool because I could change it to like a bright white color. I could change it to different colors. I could do it festive. I could do whatever I want, and I could try illumination. And they had a 96-foot cable. Yeah, it was like, okay, this is big enough. But the cable was two cables tied to one power strip. So I couldn't really go like all around. So that means that wherever the middle part was, the middle part, of course, had to be by the outlet. So that means that
right.
I had to go out this way, no matter where it was. So it didn't help me because it's like I needed to go around a particular area just going one way. But it was like, no, I got to split it up. So it was like 48 one way and 48 the other way. And it's like, it doesn't work because it doesn't hit the spots that I need to. And then it'd be weird to have it like kind of crouch around and then
Yeah,
like it'd be stuck on one part. And or like there's just like a blank spot in one part because it doesn't reach. And then you can't connect them, even though it's set up to connect it. Like it actually has the screw and everything. So you can actually screw them together,
huh?
but you can't power them like with the same charge. You would have to also power them both at the same time, which also means unless I have an outlet in the middle of my grass area, it wasn't gonna work out. So that for me, like I
Dang.
had like once you understand like the problems, like it's like okay, I understand that I can't buy it for something very extravagant. I might as well get a soldering tool and do it the hard way because at least the hard way would be the right way.
Gobi rights underrated. They work pretty well.
They work pretty well, but there is mainly because of
They're
how
not
cheap they
perfect.
are. Yeah, but it's just they're cheap. Like compared to Philips Hue, and which I have a lot of Philips Hue products, it's like the price is almost not comparison. Especially when like, oh, I only care to do this one thing, or I care to do a little thing. Then there's no reason to do Philips Hue. Even for like
Yeah,
light bulbs, like I was telling my friend Warren the other day, if you were to buy 4 Gobi light bulbs right now, you can get it for $39 minus $5. Get it for 34 for 4 color light bulbs. If you try to do the same thing for Philips Hue right now, it's 130.
yeah.
I get the price is not even in the same ballpark at that point. It's just like, why just need them to do colors? Like, do I really need to have them hook up to the razor? Like, no, not really.
Well, like even Gobi Life's not hook up to the Razer Synapse.
Some of them do, not all of them. That's the only
Yeah,
problem with Gobi is not they're
you
not
have to look
all
at them.
unison. So, like, I just got these. Actually, I got these from the meter room. I was gonna.
Audio listeners, you can see his big butt.
So I already showed you in the meeting room. I wanted to do kind of like LED lights,
Yeah,
kind of like go down, and I'm trying out some different things. Govee sells these. These are their M1s. I like them because there's 60 LEDs per millimeter. So it's a lot of LEDs in a very small space. Not like the biggest you could find, of course, but they work. They have good stuff on the app or whatever. I've worked with the app here and there. And so they kind of do everything I needed. These two can connect at least two together. And this is like a 17-foot cable. That's pretty
okay.
good. So
Yeah,
I can work with that because I already know what I want to do in the space to like break it apart. So these make more sense to me. And it changed my idea around a little bit, but at least I have something that works versus
right.
I just not having something that works at all.
Yeah, it's like I have the Govi TV light with like little camera, and I really like the way it works and stuff like that. It doesn't do the best for like live action stuff, but at the same time, I think a lot of live action just doesn't look great with that type of ambient backlighting. I just rather have it just a plain background. And then I saw they made ones for like monitors and stuff, but then those have like the camera that you have to put on top too, and I was like, oh well, I don't want that. So though I've been looking at it, and I've been like the ones I want to get for my monitors are actually the Razer ones, but they're always out of stock and they're kind of pricey too. but they're the ones that seem would work best for what I want to set up on it.
Yeah, I want to get that too. I was gonna get that for the meeting room now because I have the LC or the OLED TV in there. But it was gonna like quickly go to like the game room because I was like, yeah, for the game room makes more sense to kind of do there, especially for games, bright colors works
Yeah,
perfect. But it's also a really good solution to something that's like I don't need it to do more than what it's saying it's gonna do. Like I don't
right.
need to connect it. I don't need to extend it. And pretty much all my TVs are 65 inches at this point. So it's like I don't really have anything bigger than that.
Dirty boy.
But so let's get back to it. It's like
Thanks for our
anime.
podcast within our podcast talking about tag life.
Like, yeah, I could go on tangents like that all day, but I only got y'all for 2 hours at best. But anime inspired game. So Episode 7 is one of the ones I play. Blue Protocol. I actually was looking more into that. I was gonna send you a video about it, about the classes for that
Ooh,
game.
you saw more?
Yeah, I was like they actually have the gameplay and all that, and they were showing like the different classes, and there are probably gonna be some more classes. But I like that because immediately like, oh, like 3D anime that doesn't look as bad as the anime 3D, and and it
Oh,
looks
so
like
bad.
yeah, and it looks like actually nice fighting and stuff. It doesn't look like uh it doesn't look so weird.
I wonder if it's because since TV's at basically like 30 frames, 24.97 frames per second. I wonder if that's the reason why 3D anime doesn't look good because it's not at 60 or anything like that. So it's just not not getting that refresh rate that you need. So it's built for TV. And sorry,
I,
just thought about that right now.
Yeah, like don't give that stuff pass because there's some people who can do it,
Yeah.
but there's just sometimes where it's like you don't need to have like the main stuff be 3D. I really don't want to get into that because that's
We
still
won't.
gonna be a pain in my existence. It's like because good studios are starting to do that, and it's like please
Yeah.
don't. You make way too
Um.
much money from this.
But yeah, you need to send me that video because I want to know more about that game because I'm already really interested. And if you get more interested in it, then I could just use my abilities to enable you to want to play it more.
Mhm. So it's one of those things. Like I like that. Like again, it's another like around that's kind of getting me interested. I kind of liking the stuff. Honestly, probably much like the Tales games. I probably will look at them different if they weren't like more anime looking than anything, right? Because then it's like, oh, like the cutscenes are in anime. A lot of the other stuff is like in that kind of style. I'm not saying anime like it's a pronoun or something, but it's or noun. But it's just it works really good for that, and so I think that really gets me into being a little bit more interested because I'm in that media, and I think that's reason why Genshin Impact is selling as much as it is right now because
Dude,
it has a good way of doing both.
Genshin Impact is the game where it came out and everything, and so I downloaded it for my PC, and I played probably 2 to 3 hours in, and I went, no, I cannot play this game because I might actually go broke, and I might just not play anything else for a long, long time, and I'm going to school right now, so I need to keep my life in check and make sure I get certain priorities done. That game, it really got me in the itch of like I'm gonna like this game a lot, and I need to stop.
And I will say this, it is hard. Like when I see like some of like the later things about it, like how they do the story and all that, to me it just looks like this could have been a regular video game. Like this could have just been a single player, just you know what, we're gonna make a single player game that's just gonna keep going. Kind of like how Final Fantasy VII Remake is. Like we're just gonna make a game, like we everybody kind of knows it, but we're reimagining the game to such a scale where we have to break it apart. They could have been that, and you would have been fine. But then it's like, well, what if we can get more money from it? Enter the gotcha. It's like, and it's like, the guy, and then I'm not sure if they still don't do what was it, pities in that game, but
Don't know.
I gotta go I gotta go check it out. But like, I can't play a game that doesn't have a pity, or at least a gotcha game. When they're just like, no, like there isn't like that many times you can play it. Like I already did it for, you know, one game already, and I know how bad it could get. So I need a cap. I need to say like, okay, if I gave you this much money, I should guarantee the thing at this point.
Right.
Like at that point, now you're just gambling. At this point, you're just gambling.
Yeah, I think when it started out, it didn't have it, but
Oh, they
maybe in
definitely
the,
didn't have it.
yeah, maybe in a future update now they might.
Yeah, they got a guy for $4,000 when it came out just for trying to get one character. They definitely did not have it.
Yeah, I
There's
remember that.
unlucky and there's like, yeah, you just hated that one particular guy.
That sounds like me, except I would not spend 4,000 because I have definitely more control when it comes to that type of stuff. I was like,
I do
why?
too. Like, like $50 hurts.
Yeah,
It's like- but like,
I get to 30 and I'm like, oh, that's already a lot of money.
yeah, like at $1,000, you just quit the game. Like at this point, what's the point? You're not getting anything in return for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the person would have been a lot more happier getting other characters besides trying to get that one character.
Yeah. And I heard the game that I'm playing right now used to be like that. I'm kind of glad I jumped in right after that because it's one of those things too. Like, okay, so 120 no, 120 tries and you're not gonna guarantee it. No, not doing it.
Yep.
That's evil right there. So that's one of those things where anime style stuff does really kind of get me. Like it gets me into the genre a little bit more. Maybe it's a hack for me particularly, but how I see people go crazy kind of about games like Genshin and stuff like that, and how they kind of remember things like that. I think it's a really good, tactic when you're really trying to sell a game. It just kind of give it that kind of style and stuff. It's like being able to sell a cartoon, but said you could sell it to adults and kids. It's basically kind of what it
Yeah.
comes down to. So I don't even have nothing against it. Like it's just one of those things where like I kind of like it, and that's kind of where I'm at. Especially games like DNF Duel and fighting games like stuff like that, where it's like, oh, they look so much better because the effects of the moves or like how they do damage, just stuff look like it hits harder and stuff like that. I really do kind of like that style. So, but then we get to like the last category that came to mind to me when I was thinking about this, and this is neither anime style or anime base, but is games that use anime characters, as their own promotional kind of venues.
Oh,
So,
okay.
this is not like a really good one to one, but we'll just say like for my game Epic 7, I told you right now they added Full Metal Alchemist. Before that, it was the time I got reincarnated to a slime. Very popular anime that they were able to get for
It's a
this
good
full
anime.
year. So, and that character's broken as hell too. But
Yeah, he
it's one of
deserves to be.
those,
He's the best.
yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're gonna get more people into it because everybody's watching this anime, and we got the rights to get this character in.
Right.
Like those games, and like I said, and I use that one even though it's like, that's kind of anime to anime, but it's one of the clearer, excuses of like, hey, we're not gonna just do a collab with something. No, we're gonna do a collab with a really known anime, really known IP that everybody's at least sees something. Whereas Dragon, whatever, Demon Slayer, all that kind of stuff like that, right? So what's your opinion on that?
I'm fine with him. Like literally, actually today, I uh, I got convinced by my girlfriend. She kind of enabled this and this one, but my son sent me a video of the My Hero Academia characters going on to Fortnite,
Hmm.
and he like really wanted it and stuff like that. And I was like, well, how much are they? And so he tells me the price, and I think it was like $20 for all the characters. So that's like not even too bad to get like 4 skins. And I was like, okay, that's not bad. $20, it's not the end of the world. Things like that.
That was a
And I
clear
was like,
example. I forgot.
yeah. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll think about it. And so like I showed it to my girlfriend and everything. She's like, you can't show it to me. She's like, I'll buy it. And it's like I'd buy it. And it's like, okay, then I'll just go ahead and buy it for him. Why not? He just finished off the semester of school. He did good and stuff like that. He just did his first concert. I was like, why not? You know what I mean? You treat the boy a little bit. And so I bought him the skins for that because I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool as hell. Like I had to hold myself from not buying the Naruto skins when those came out because it's like I don't even play Fortnite, but it'd just be cool to have them. So when I do jump in every now and then, I'd have the skin. But I was like, no, I don't need to. I don't need to. That's the problem I do have with like those type of promotions though, because I'm not big on playing mobile games stuff like that because I want to try and not be on my phone too much. And I know if I get those games, I'm gonna be on my phone a lot more, and that will
Mhm.
just prevent me from playing other video games and stuff like that because it's just the laziness and easiness of just going, "Oh, okay, let's just do this." But like reincarnating my slime was one of the ones where I forgot what game it was, but they had a promotion, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna check it out," and I checked it out, and I was getting really into it, and I was like, "No, no, no, you need to stop yourself, Chris, because if you don't,"
Yeah.
so I'm cool with them. What about you?
It's in that particular case, I don't hate them because they're doing the same thing in the other thing. Instead of the whole game being animated, let's just try to get people things that they can relate to a lot better. So as a marketing thing, it's kind of like a no-brainer for games like Fortnite, which they're live service games. They're games that like basically the base character doesn't matter, like the skins do, and you could put the skin of Thanos, you could put the skin, of Goku, and whatever. Like, why not abuse the privilege? So it's kind of hard to say like, oh, like, I don't. That sounds gross. So it's just one of those things where it's like it makes sense, and if it could get anybody to play your game, and I guess as kind of being on the game developer side, if we can get anybody to play your game, and it's a guaranteed sell at this point, you might as well. Like, if
Right.
you can, like, obviously there's IP, there's licenses, there's all the kind of stuff, but to say that it wouldn't be worth it is at this point it's not in the cards. Like, it's always worth it at this point, even if the game has nothing to do with the actual anime stuff. Because ain't nobody who's anime going into Fortnite probably should be in that game, and I think a lot of the memes and stuff like that prove it. But it's still funny. It's still funny to see Goku on the top and
Oh yeah.
Kamehameha like the whole 5 people in a row. Like, it's
I
funny.
I love the fact that I can actually kill and destroy Goku with a gun just like you can in the real anime, and for some reason nobody ever does that to you.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's cool, and like I said, like when you do it for like a lot, I get more scared about from the mobile games because those games are a little bit more addicting. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna be a free to play game. You get to play this time. You get to try to get these characters. It'll be awesome, stuff like that. And it's like, and you get to keep playing. It's like, again, I don't hate it. I just felt like it only happens in games where they're very predatory. They're trying to get as much money from you as possible. Like you said $20 ain't that bad, but I feel like that's, to me, that kind of is, because it's like $20. There's games right now for $20. Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff right now for $20. So like $20 for like one skin is very hard. Like, I'm trying to do that with
Foreskins.
4 skins. Okay, well, that's a little bit, but then I like, okay, how much did it cost to get like new character for Super Smash Brothers? It's, or
50.
like, how much did it cost to get like new characters for like another game where it's like it's an actual character, it's not just a swap.
Right.
To me, that's where it kind of gets weird, because it's like I was kind of like that with League of Legends. Like, I really did love the skins. That was like kind of like one of my
Yeah.
biggest things. I did like the
Everybody
characters.
does.
Yeah,
So
but
good.
I did like the characters. I did like their concept of skins, how they were re-imaged characters and stuff. And when you can get them all into discount, like, I'm more for that. But I've also learned from League of Legends that how addicting that could be, because there's so much of it, and you can't literally own all of them without spending an incredible amount of money. And after
Right.
a point, you're like, I'm spending more than what I would spend if I just bought a game. Now I'm spending more than if I would just bought a console. Like, literally, it's taking so much from me, where it's like, I gotta maybe rethink this, because they're gonna keep doing this because that's the business model. They can't.
All right.
Why would you stop selling skins all of a sudden? That's the business model. So it's like, okay, am I gonna be this for the long run? Can I actually do that for just characters that I like? Stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, because they're going to keep releasing characters. What if I like another character? Like,
And that's where I like to try it, or where I tell myself and evaluate myself on this point where it's like I could like bought my son another game for $20, stuff like that, but I know he's gonna be playing this one a lot more, so I'm willing to spend the $20 on this one that he's gonna use. And same thing goes for me when it comes to these type of promotions. If I'm gonna get that skin, or I want that skin, I'm gonna make sure it's something that I play frequently, and that way that's where it puts that stop for me to be like, all right, I'm not gonna buy this or waste my money on it, which I know it's hard because this is kind of like a system that if you could buy it, people will buy it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's where it could get kind of a little grimy in that sense.
Hmm.
And so that's where my self control comes in. And that's how I evaluate it for myself. But like if I'm gonna play this game a lot and it's technically like a quote unquote free to play game, then yeah, I could spend $20 here, $10 here, stuff like that. But I'm not gonna try and go above maybe 100 for the entire year, and that's still like a big maybe if I'm gonna put that much money into a game like that. So for that for the year and stuff like that, because I try to evaluate myself like, okay, if I'm gonna buy a game, this is how much this would cost for me for that year and stuff.
I mean that's some pretty impressive self control. I'll tell you that much. The 100 games ain't much. That and that's kind of like my caveat. It's like 100 games isn't much for like any of these type of games. Like when you talk about like content, like you have to really love the 5 things that the $100 is going to get you for. Like I think like in Epic 7 itself, just to have like some summoning material for some things, for like the very particular special characters, the minimum is $50. Like
How
it's
much do you think you spend on that game a year?
um probably not a conversation I want to get into, but I definitely say it's not a stupid amount of. I will say that like I do have my limits. At this point, the way that my mindset changes is that I'm getting to the point where it's like I'm actually really close to getting all the characters in the game. So I have the opportunity to definitely spend less, but it also comes to like saving more the more they don't release the characters as frequently. Because if I can save more, I have bigger opportunities to get the character for free. So I'm getting to that point, and I think for me to get to that point, there were times where I just had to basically buy a character out. Like, oh, there I'm 30 summons away. That's $50. You know, why not? It's
Right.
or like it's $100. I know I need the character. It sucks. Like I've been playing this game for like 3, 4 years now, or something like that. I forget how long the game's been around, but it's gets a little bit more, like you said, like understandable, a little bit more trying to understand like kind of where you are when you know you've been playing the game for a certain amount of time and you're actually
Right.
invested into it. And
Yeah.
this is one of those things where I just got to invest into it.
That's me. That's me with like, it was me with Destiny compared to this year, but where I would have, it was easier for me to keep going with the game and stuff like that because I already invested so much time into it and years into it, compared to other people who would want to jump back in with me and stuff like that, and they'd have to play so much catch up and stuff, and I could see where like that becomes an issue with other people, and I think that's where I find myself blocking myself out as well when it comes to mobile games because a lot of them like I want to play, but they're already so much ahead of what's been going on in that game. There's like,
Mhm.
oh, like I'm gonna have to put all the effort and possibly some money into it to try and get to a decent point to where it could start balancing itself out easier and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. It's kind of like fighting games, but in a different reason. Because in fighting games, if you play it late, like the skill curve is just too high at a certain point. But when it comes to gotcha games, it's not that the skills or anything like that is higher than anything. Most of them are turn based anyway. It's
Hmm.
mainly the fact that people have got characters that you don't have access to. Like
Right,
people have resources that you don't have access to. You don't know how to manage resources as well. And so you're just spending money or just doing stuff inefficiently at such an early time. Even if they give you like a lot of the free stuff, they know the free stuff doesn't really equate to like being a pro in a matter of seconds. It's just, hey, we'll get you started so you're not being scrubbed out.
right,
But it's just one of those things where it's like, and I kind of argue about with that game too. It's like at a certain point, the top players use the same 10 characters. And if you don't have those 10 characters, no matter how creative you are, you're going to get snubbed out because there's a reason why they're only using those 10 characters. So that's kind of how I feel. And so like when I look at all these other games where I feel like they could be very promising, um it gets very difficult for me to want to even attempt them because I don't want to
right.
have another game that sinks up my time as much or it's definitely gonna be money sink. Even if I play, like I love playing stuff for the story, and I love trying to go through a lot of the story stuff. But I not favor of like if I'm really gonna play this game, I gotta, pay this amount of money. Like there's an entry point and stuff like that. And you can play stuff for free as much as possible. I've been doing kind of an experiment too, where I have one account that's free to play and one account that is like a more of a paid account, just to see the difference. And the difference is so staggering. Just how they progress. Like just because you can get to the same elo, that doesn't mean you have the same research. There's only so many things you can do, and you have
Right.
to have a different mindset. And there's some games that you just can't be a free to play character. It's just you can't.
I
There's one thing I did want to ask you.
Go for it.
Was the second one because I think is a very important thing that I see a lot that it gets tired of. There's actually two. I actually want to bring you up to. The first one though is anime inspired games, but they expose all the stuff that's kind of bad with anime today. Like certain shots, certain poses, certain stuff like that kind of really sink you into by buying it the game and stuff like that. Or just stuff that they do where it's like, yeah, that this is definitely that 16, 18 plus kind of range, but it's might as well just be 18 plus at this point, the way that they're going about it. But then it's like that's the promo. That's maybe sometimes the gameplay, but that's like everything like before you even get attempt to play the game, it's like, hey, don't you want to see anime chest? We got anime chest in this game. Did you know girls have chest in this game? It's like, yeah, I kind of understand that. But no. You should see them. They're amazing. It will change your life. And it's like, no, that just seems kind of weird, man. Like I kind of starting to hate those, but I kind of wanted your opinion on
The one you're talking about, like specifically right now, are one of the ones I don't are like the tropes that I don't like, and both when it comes to like anime in general, and especially when it comes to the games, like I'm not gonna play that gotcha game on my phone while I'm at work and stuff like that, on my break and stuff like that, and have it get a notification. So when I try and should they check this out, and you get that
that.
little notification of that game pop up, it's like that's you're just gonna embarrass yourself in a sense. You're gonna feel a little bit of shame because now that coworker's just gonna think you're a dirty person. And it's like, no, I really like this game, even though it is a little eccentric in a sense and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can't get into it and stuff like that. And even then, like even especially when it comes to like anime, like I literally had this happen today where we're at a store and this girl was talking to my girlfriend and I about anime, and um she was asking about Fire Force, and I was like, oh, Fire Force, should I watch it? This now I was like, look, it's fun to watch. I was like, but like it has this aspect of it, this anime trope and stuff like that. And then once I told her about it, she's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "I kind of knew about it." I was like, "Yeah, it kind of plays in hard in aspects of this and this." And I was like, "But other than that, it has a good story behind it, but it does have those things in it." And she's like, "Oh," she's like, "I like that stuff." I was like, "All right, cool. Well then, yeah, you can check it out." And that's how I feel it comes to the same thing with these games, where it's like, "Oh, like this is a very very like type of game, and I don't need to really get when it comes to a game, especially. I don't really need to get into it because." In animes, I could barely stand it when it comes to 24 minutes that it is and the time frame of that. And even then,
Mhm.
it's like 5 minutes here, 2 minutes here total time put into that one episode. Let
Yeah.
alone play a full 5 hour one sitting for our night, or doing 30 to 60 hours of a game and stuff like that. Like I just can't do it. It's like no, this isn't it. This isn't it.
And you know what? Fire Force is a great example of that because it is a good show, but there's just one character that her entire existence brings it down like a point because it's like it's just the way that they go about it where it's just kind of
Yeah,
like, why is this here? Like it serves no purpose. And sometimes they do it even at the worst times where
yeah.
it's like, hey, there's something really big happening. And the next, what happens? All those girls' clothes are gone. It's all like, oh, she got slapped on the back. All clothes are gone.
There
She's
was
like,
like one where like
shit.
she has like a really good arc of like her like, oh, this character is growing, this is awesome. And then like the next freaking scene it cuts to is something that happens like that with her, and it's like, why would you do that to a character? Like just have this great moment to some of that, and the next one just have her half naked. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah, and they don't really spend too much on her growth. Like it's like, oh, she actually doesn't have a bad power, but it's just the fact that they want to play some other aspect of like, oh, hey, this is funny, right? This like, yeah, I'm okay with funny, etchy humor. Like it's not it's kind of ingrained in it, and especially if you like anything slice of life, anything love Hina, anything like kind of like around that aspect, you'll kind of subscribe to it. But when it's just like, yeah, but this is an action anime, and there are like a lot of people doing a lot of crazy cool things. Basically, again, gods fighting against gods kind of looking stuff. And yet there's a girl that like somehow not only did all she did was trip, she literally fell out entirely out of her clothes. And then like, we're all
Yeah.
supposed to go back to the same like, know what? I'm just not in the mood anymore. Like, it's just kind of like it just canceled out all feelings that happened. And but there are some like I'm gonna put this in the chat because that way people could just see it themselves. This game, whenever you get the chance, just watch the gameplay of it.
Oh no.
And like I actually played this at Comic-Con, so I actually got to play it. It was like they were promoting it, like, hey, follow them on Twitter, get free stuff. I'm like, yeah, I love free stuff, give it to me. And but like when I was
Free.
playing the game, I was just like, are you serious? This is how the game plays. It's like, yeah. And it's like, yeah, you just hit here and you shoot around and stuff like that. It's like, damn well I'm not paying attention to that. So damn well I ain't paying attention. Like that is bad. But like you just kind of like see like some like clips and stuff of it. You're just gonna be like, what? Really? It's like, huh. Well, I mean, if you need to sell the game, like what, might as well. But it's like, yeah, but it kind of gets into some. It just looks weird for me. It's just like, why is it doing
Yeah. I found a video right now, and like it was in like the selection screen, and I was like, okay, that's a little awkward. And I just like fast forward to like after the loading screen when it gets to the game, I was like, oh, okay, all right then.
Yeah, and it's like that's the game. Like it's like, oh yeah, there's like war is going on. You're fighting for your life. You got to switch between like it has a very intricate battle system to where you have to
Yeah,
actually pay attention to what you're doing and stuff. And then the next thing you know, you just have the girl just be like, "Hey," and you're like, "Oh, whoa, what is going on?"
so is this a mobile game?
This is a mobile game. It's
Yeah,
free
of
to play.
course.
Gotcha style, all that stuff, and playing on. I mean, obviously, like there was no need for a PlayStation controller to play it. You have to actually touch it, in order to fight her. So it's just, oh my god, it's just one of those things where it's just all like, this is where some of them become in order to get your attention.
Right.
And so that's where like this is kind of where like the bad side for me. Another one that is kind of what I hate too, and I talked to it with some other my friends of mine. When they sell you the anime component, like a really nice PG of the character or PNG of the character, and it's like great art. They look like they have a lot of good styling on it. But when you play the game, all the characters are either small pixelated or chibi. I
So
hate that. I hate that more.
I hate I hate the chibi version of it. Like that is one of the ones I really, really, absolutely just am not a fan of when it comes to gameplay and stuff like that. Like even when Pokemon did the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I was like, oh, I kind of want to play that, and then I saw how the gameplay was, and I was like, I'm out. Like I'm out. It's just too. I get it. I understand it. It's cute. It's adorable, but it's just not the aesthetic I want to keep staring at for a long period of time.
Yeah.
If it goes into a pixelated, like a good art pixelated version, then I'm more willing to be like, okay, that's cool. Like I could dig that. Like I do really like a lot of pixel art stuff and everything and stuff like that. So that's one thing I could probably go into, but there are some where I see and they go into pixelated version and I was just like, oof, that looks like a some form of a human being that might also be a mashed potato in squares.
Yeah, and just to explain the difference I'm talking about, because even like kind of like the way you're saying it could be acceptable in some cases. When I'm talking about like chibi, I'm talking about like, you have, you see my background or whatever, right? Like you see like this really extravagant character. Actually, I can just share my background screen the way that it is, just to give you like the best. Yeah, let's do this one. So to just give you like an example, like this is a very, high contrast image. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of intricate designs and stuff like that. This by itself looks crazy. It looks amazing.
Right.
Hair color change and all that. This is kind of like what they'll sell you, right? They'll sell you something like that. And then this is like let's say like the game play of it. Let's get an example. Like just to show you what I mean about like how bad of a difference it is. I think it's better to show than tell. And maybe this is bad, but it's like it's just for boom.
It's for good purposes.
That's the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that though. That's a me thing.
I'm not. It's like right here. It's like you can't go from that, and then this is the character you're actually got for. Like you're paying for this, and then
for audio listeners, he's showing like a pixelated version of Mario.
Yeah, like it just to kind of give you content. Like if you were playing like because with Pokemon, with the Pokemon example, like the Pokemon games are very simplistic. Even the Pokemon at this point are like a popsicle with eyes. Like they're not really crazy stuff going on. But like when you look at like some of these other games and stuff like that, like they're really like big into it. They do the skeleton animation where it's kind of like how the characters look like they're all wavy and stuff and all that. They do all this other kind of crazy stuff for the animation and stuff. But then like the gameplay is like, like the base version of a Super Nintendo game. And it's like that's insane. Like what they could have done the pixel part where like the older Guilty Gear games, most of their fighting games are all pixelated. King of Fighters, most of their older games are all pixelated. There are some games that are like you could do great pixelation, but then they're like, oh, I'm gonna give you this badass shield and sword character, that has all the other kind of stuff and stuff, and then what they give you is Link from Link to the Past. It's just like that. I hate that because to me that's false advertisement at that point. At least the other game, it showed you exactly what you're getting. It's all like it may be questionable in that case. And I'm not gonna really show it on the screen for the video, but it makes sense. It's like, oh, we're gonna be doing that. That's how they're gonna sell it. But to me, something like this is just straight up just false advertisement. Because it's like they basically sold you Flappy Bird, but they put the they just made the bird look more extravagant, and then it's like, oh, but it's still Flappy Bird, right? Yeah. That's how I kind of feel about it. And there's a lot of gacha games, a lot of other games that do that kind of thing. It's kind of why I like Fortnite a little bit, because Fortnite will take a character and then put it in a more Fortnite look. Like the characters obviously don't look, maybe even as cool as they are in the anime when you put them in like a 3D, setting. But they tried and they made it work for their style. So that's like, okay, that's cool. But when you're looking at something that's so transformative to the point where like it could probably not be copyrighted at this point, it's really kind of hard where it's like it's hard for me to get behind that and be like, okay, well, I like this is cool, but it's like because like they're trying to sell me the art, but then like there's nothing to it when you get into it. Like if I just wanted to see the art, I could just download the picture and put that
or screenshot it,
right? It's like it's all like I could just do that. Like there's no point of downloading a game that has like all this crazy looking art and stuff like that, and they're selling you all these cool things. They're selling you an anime. They're selling you all this other stuff, but then the gameplay is nowhere near the promotional material.
Right. How do you feel about games like that? But they aren't really mobile. Like they're like actual games on like the store. You can find like a Nintendo eShop or something like that, or like on a Steam.
I actually, that's a pretty good question, because a lot of times I tried to get into gacha games like that, or not gacha games, gacha go away. Just trying to talk about like like simple games that are kind of indie and stuff, and it's really hard because you're expecting that, and you're not, you're not getting it once you get in there, and it's really hard to kind of really fall through, because a lot of indie games have some really good like styles of gameplay, really interesting. There's a lot of them that are like, oh, you just give it a chance, give it like an hour, you might actually like the game. But like to me, that's almost like an instant no. When I'm like, they see it, like I see like this cool promotion and stuff, and then I see like the game is very simplistic, like it's just not even representative of the material. And for
Right.
me, it's like I still kind of hate that because it's like I understand why you're doing it to a certain point, but it's hard for me to be interested because of it. Like it's just one of those things where it's like there's a lot of pixel games, um, especially in the indie scene where it's like has a really nice box art or like a really nice like little thing, and then like the game is just a side scroller and them just hitting stuff around.
Yeah.
Like it's just like if you're gonna do that, do something kind of more like Hollow Knight, where like the character is very simplistic and you can do some cool stuff with the like the theme, and then that's easier to translate to the game. But there's no point of doing like Final Fantasy level character designs to do Final Fantasy One gameplay. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to do that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only way that kind of thing works at this point is if like you're purposely making a game to be like that. Like let's say you have like we're gonna do Final Fantasy 10 and take those characters stuff like that, but we're gonna make like a kind of old school Final Fantasy version of it and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Then like you're purposely taking this medium and this art style and putting it into this pixelated art style and stuff like that. Then those are things where I think it's a better situation and stuff like that. But if it's just like your art style and stuff like that, and you have like a cool, awesome trailer that doesn't really show too much gameplay, and then you go to check out the game and you're about to buy it, or you just kind of go in blindly and buy it, and you realize you're getting like just very small pixelated stuff, then that's where it be, especially when it comes to being like on an eShop, on like a Steam in your Steam shop, or like Xbox or PlayStation, all that stuff. Those
Hmm.
really irk me, where because that's where to me those I consider them like kind of in the shovelware sense, where it's like, well, okay, no, this is automatically I don't need this in my store, in my feed and stuff like that. That's automatically gone because that's more of a space for me for a mobile thing, not even for a handheld, like just strictly mobile, because
Yeah.
I want to be in and out and done if I'm gonna play it for those quick amount of time.
Yeah, and like I said, like the one thing that's cool about anime is the style and everything that really comes with it. So when you kind of go through that, like as your actual promotional stuff, that's kind of expected that it should be there. Like it's one thing to say like, oh, I like Rimuru from, that time I got reincarnated out of slime and you see him doing all cool stuff and stuff. But then in the gameplay, you see like his head and feet. And it's just like, hey, pay $50 for this. And it's like, no, like
Yeah,
it's I guess maybe I'm a little whiny in this kind of aspect, but I do feel like this is worse than the original example. Because like I said, the
yeah,
original example is they're really frontal about like where they are as far as what they're willing to show you. While the other one's like, hey, if you do this, you're gonna get this cool this I can't even say it. Like it's just like you're gonna get all this cool stuff. It's gonna look awesome. You're gonna have an epic adventure. You're gonna have this beautiful storyline, and then they don't even have cutscenes.
yeah,
It's just like it's really hard to really kind of say that you're even like I can't even trust you at that point because it's like oh, you basically had two different teams make the same game. It's kind of how I see it.
yeah. I think oh, what was I gonna say? Um, I'll take it not on a tangent because it's still in the same aspect stuff like that, but on a different topic of this whole anime thing. Do you think in let's say the past 5 years, maybe yeah, 5 years. We'll start 5 years. You think anime games are starting to be moving upwards in a better sense, stuff like that, than what we're used to? Because like anime games that for us, especially us, some of that talking about doing a lot in the PlayStation 2 era and stuff like that. It was a
Mhm.
lot. It was a lot like licensing games for Western stuff and everything. You know what I mean? Like whether it was movies, like the Avatar the game, or things like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those they kind of went hand in hand together in aspect. But do you think in the past 5 years, now that we've been getting more games and stuff like that, do you think they've been doing actually better?
I think anime games have gone better. Because I think like, what I'm trying to get at with most of my gripes is just meeting expectation. I think before, it was okay for the expectation to not meet the promotional material because it was just literally too difficult to do. If Triple A's couldn't do it, I can't really expect everybody to do it.
Right.
Um, PlayStation 1 was a very good era for that because like games like Lunar, games like what was it like a Xenogears and stuff like that. Like they had like the cool moments where like, okay, this part's 3D and looks cool and blah blah blah, but this part is not as much. But they've all have a good way of like working it in. Like, we got kind of conditioned for like headshots and stuff to work like that. And so now we're getting to the point, kind of like in Blue Protocol, where now we're starting to have better tech. We're starting to understand how to really translate anime type of moves into a 3D space, because I think that's the biggest hurdle that people, and why we don't really like 3D anime right now, is that they don't know how to do that translation stuff.
Right.
Um, when they make live action, they don't know how to do that translation. How do we make something that's really high impact with like all the moves and all the nuances and make it a live action? It's like that's a really hard and difficult thing. But for video games, it's very easy to do at this point. Like there's special effects that can work on it, both Unreal and Unity. And like, all the other game engines have a particle system for you to like really make this stuff look crazier or even better than its anime counterpart. So that's why like I don't really kind of give a lot of slack for a lot of this stuff, because like, you could just either shoot a gun and just hit a bullet, or you could shoot a gun and make a big explosion. Like it's like you can choose that, and normally people want to see the later, even if it is unrealistic to the weapon itself. It just gives people more hype when they see it. And so I feel like it's just easier to kind of do it. I just think maybe the thing that stops it is cost. As someone who tries
Gotcha.
to like make games myself, it is very difficult to overcome stuff you're not good at. For me, particle systems is very hard for me to understand the concept, and I have to follow a lot of tutorials and stuff that kind of help me remind me like, oh, if I do this and this, I can change this. But I can't grasp like the 72 different buttons and levers and whatever you need to do to make a grenade explosion. Is real to me, like it is really hard for me because it doesn't translate well without knowing some like better level of physics. But for some people it's not that big of an issue.
I feel you. You know what I would love to see that would be probably really hard for someone to do, but to do a like Cuphead style game, but for anime, where everything's like kind of hand drawn and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That'd be really cool to see, because I think you have better technology in games now to be able to do really cool 2D art styles and stuff like that.
And you know what? That's an example of something that looks very amazing, but we all know how difficult it is to do.
Yeah.
Like it was something they had to do back in the day, and they had to have very particular techniques in order to get cells and stuff out. And that's why like just a single cell was such a valuable piece like to own sometimes. But it was just like this was like 1 second or 1 millisecond of your favorite cartoon show or whatever that like they actually used to put in and out. But when it comes to game, it's like you have to do that throughout the entire concept. Like what made I think Cuphead sell that well was because it was all purely hand drawn stuff. And it looked like an old cartoon. It played like an old cartoon. So like the aesthetic, the concept, all everything was strong with it and stuff like that. And I think it really sell just for that. I played it, and I mean, when you play the game in black and white, it looks amazing to kind of play like an
Yeah.
old kind of cartoonish stuff. So they could play into those little gimmicks and stuff a little bit better. I think for going forward, like it's really hard to do that. I think like you had to really find a way to commit to it. You had to find particular artists that can actually do that more constant stuff, because even in anime today, even if it is like mostly drawn, you can tell where they kind of cheaped out by like kind of putting like a 3D character really in the background to kind of fill it up so it doesn't look like empty. Or
Right.
when they try to like separate the foreground with the background with like more of a 3D background and stuff like that, because they know they have to pump this stuff out quicker and stuff. Like even sometimes 2 years isn't enough, when the more you do, the more work you have to correct all the time. So it's like I really love that. I appreciate that. And I would like to see it more for other stuff. But I understand how difficult it was for that team to do it. And
Right.
then being like they had to do that to make their game, shine out from everybody.
Yeah. It'd be really cool. I wonder if it's, since it'd be like a anime based game and stuff like that, you might have a little bit of easy or access to that type of drawing stuff like that and to find out artists and stuff like that, because I know when it comes to making these animes in general, the studios and stuff like that are kind of unfortunately pushed to do to bring them out and stuff like that, and sometimes underpaid and stuff like that. So maybe a couple of artists over that might just end up being like, hey, you know what? We want to make a video game out of this character or this anime, this blah 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 that we worked on, and then kind of do a similar thing and have that possibly happen. And I could see like uh, Namco Bandai going behind it to help produce it and stuff like that, and put it out there since they usually do a lot of like other games that are in 3D version but aren't so good and stuff like that. But I guess maybe this might be the other kind of argument. Those games just pretty much sell well in Japan in a sense, so that's why they probably do them anyways.
You
So
know,
that's
it's
where
just
they
kind
could
of
go.
it's really kind of hard for that because like if you could you see like an American company going down that rabbit hole and being able to find the artists, being able to find someone who's willing to kind of do that hand drawing all the time, and are they going to be able to put out the same kind of work that someone in Japan would do it? And then the reverse question of that is, could you see a Japanese company, being able to do that today with the way that they do like anime and games and stuff now? Do you see them actually be able to adopt that kind of pipeline? And I feel like
Yeah.
they both, for me, are missing the other thing that the other guys need. That's how I kind of see the questions. What do you feel like?
Uh, I think it's definitely. I think here on the western side of things, there might be a better opportunity for it. I mean, a good example is going back again to Cuphead, getting the backing through Xbox and stuff like that to get the game out and stuff like that, because they knew they had like something good going on here, so they wanted to take a chance on them, and it worked out. Um, I could see like a Sony Western company um, developer team and stuff like that, maybe having like a small team help out with it and help to develop the thing and doing it that way, and then Sony being the backing of it. I just, from what I've seen, I haven't seen a lot of like Japanese studios or Eastern studios and stuff like that want to take that risk, because I know it is not easy to do.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what it comes down to. It's just, in order to do it, you need the same amount of work ethic to put up with it, but you also have to be willing to pay people for it as well.
Right.
It can't just be something like we're doing it because we expect it to be done this way. It has to be like we're doing something very ambitious and we're gonna be asking a lot, and so we need to pay appropriately. When it comes to like paying anybody who does art right now, a lot of it's subjective based on how the artist values their own work and versus how much you value it, and they're never going to equal. It's just one of those things that's never going to equal, and then to put that into a workspace is just very difficult. Because you
Or
are saying like, well, I'll pay you 60,000 a year, which some people are kind of high, some people are kind of low, but it's like, well, this is guaranteed income, but that means that they're also expecting you to put the same kind of art quality all the time for them, kind of
the other
thing.
option too is now that I thought about it, it's because it's at least it's working over here in the West, and I think it could work for like IPs and stuff like that, anime IPs stuff like that. Is finding like those smaller studios that have been doing like those beat 'em ups, those side scrolling beat 'em ups stuff like that,
Hmm.
and do like Yu Yu Hakusho or like even a Naruto side scrolling beat 'em up with dope like pixel art and stuff like that, and then you could add some like anime scenes stuff like that to build the story out or whatever, and do like a $30 game or stuff like that that could probably do really really well. Because that's another way I could see it happening too. Won't be exactly like a Cuphead
Hmm.
example and stuff like that, but it's still, you still get something really really cool, kind of nostalgic, and also probably get a good game overall out of it.
Yeah, I don't honestly, Yu Yu Hakusho would probably be a great beat 'em up game. The
Yeah.
more you kind of think about it, like having you with three other people, like that. It's like that. It felt like it was kind of made for that. It's like, hey, just beat up all the demons and humans until they submit.
Yep. And then just
But
have them do have the either the Blaze Blue or the Guilty Gear team make a Yu Yu Hakusho fighting game. There you go.
it's
So it
just
is one of
cost.
the best fighting arcs. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
it's always going to come down to like that's a even for like a small project like a beat 'em up, which is something that's like a try and true video game style. Like it still costs a lot of money to
Oh
kind of
yeah,
get
for
that work
sure.
done. I mean, even for to do the art for this, our podcast, like I still had to pay some money. Like I feel like it was worth it because this was very personal to me, and I was able to kind of put out, a little bit of money. And like, yeah, I'm not. This is money where if I don't make money from it, it's fine, right? Like, because
Right.
it is a small investment, but it's like, I really like this. I like seeing our mascot character and stuff like that. But if I was like, okay, but can I pay somebody all the time to do our thumbnails full time? Like
Right.
now, we're not really making any money off the podcast and stuff like that. We're kind of really doing this for fun for the most part until it can be something bigger. But can I pay someone now out of my own pocket money for someone to do like the crazy thumbnails or do that same level of art that our promotional art has? And that's like, I was like, ugh, I want that, but I feel like I couldn't do it, like with my
Right.
cash. I feel like I can't really divide that to its own piggy bank, and so that's why it's like, oh, cool idea, and it'll probably work out in the end, but it's a lot to pay right now for something that I'm not sure when it will pay out later.
There's the right people to do it because you had a Street Race 4 that did really really good and stuff like that and did something kind of that. Then you had the Ninja Turtles one that came out this year and that did really really well and stuff like that. So
Era that did really well.
there's definitely an audience for it now and there's just a showing for it. I think my biggest question now at this point would just be how much of the how much of those games sold well in Japan, China, you know what I mean, those regions and stuff like that, to be able to try and go, hey, let's do this same idea but with an anime IP. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
And, and
that's where it really comes in.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's in that aspect it by itself, it's a lot of money. Um, but like there is an audience. Like that at this point, it's great to be in 2022 where we know anime is a big thing and there are big conventions for it. Every streamer, YouTuber, whatever, watch some anime in their point in their life, even if they don't do it on screen, they definitely do it off, blah blah blah. So it's not something that's like only a few people do it. But sometimes I feel like the paying pool is not there unless it's a very particular one. Uh, I think for anime inspired games, yeah, they work for me because I do like that kind of thing, and that's a hack for me. Um, but I know I'm not always like that. Just like how there's sometimes I favor a story more than gameplay. A lot of people say, you know what? I don't. I wish there was no story. I don't
Right.
want to play story, and I only care about gameplay. And it's really kind of hard to kind of hit all the markets and make it all profitable. When you know that the no matter how big anime is, it's still a niche. It's still a very siloed, you know, some people like it, some people
Oh
don't,
yeah.
so it's like your money pool can only be so big. And it can only be bigger if it has we're gonna put Game of Thrones into an anime or something like that. That's kind of like where you kind of or The Witcher 3, when that was like you get live action, so now you bring it to that, but then you also have the anime one and you can bring it to that. Like that's where you can actually diversify the
Right.
audience and stuff like that. So it was really hard without actually having Netflix pocketbooks in order to do it. Um, do I feel like it's worth it? Yeah, I do. I do feel like for the most part, if you're trying to make a project very successful, do it. Hey, don't do
Yeah.
baby kids in the back over there. And I was like, leave your dog
Um,
alone.
what's it called? You know what actually could really really work because, I mean, you already see it kind of happen. You already see it happening and stuff like that right now, and you have a My Hero Academia. This is like huge stuff like that. I mean, they just came out with a fighting game what year, 2 years ago, and stuff like that. So, and I even heard that was just like that goes along back to the original question where like, are they getting better? And I hear that game was actually fun to play. It's just a matter of, I guess, the support system for it isn't the best. So people like it, people want like playing and stuff like that. You just don't have that backing support to keep it that
Yeah.
fighting game keep going and growing and stuff like that. And so you could do something with My Hero in this type of sense or stuff for to just make really cool games that don't cost a total arm and leg and stuff to do it, but you already have the backing to prove it with the IP on both sides of the store and stuff like that. You got to find those right people for the right game for it. 'Cause that's another one that could be fun, like a side scrolling beat 'em up. get to choose your hero to join in, stuff like that. You can level them up, make them stronger, etc., etc.
Yeah. But the problem with those games for me though is just like My Hero Academia. The probably reason why there's not much support for it because the novelty kind of runs off. It's just one of those things where it's all like, do all the characters matter in My Hero Academia? Do you matter to play, gather? Is there enough diversity that you like it, or is it, hey, I'm going to play against the same 5, 10 people that actually matter? And then like, okay, well, we could have a cast of 30, and it's like, yeah, but I don't really care about the other ones. It's like I'm probably going to play like the main characters and the people around him that are there most of the time, and maybe
Right.
play the one or two other ones. And I feel like the novelty for that kind of runs off. One game that I still feel like it didn't, or two of them there that I don't feel like there was any point to them, were the one for like One Punch Man and the one for Mob Psycho 100. And I like the anime
Right.
and the manga for both of these, but you can't tell me anybody outside of Mob is even remotely that interesting to play it as a gotcha.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
kind of like the
Especially
same thing.
One Punch Man.
Yeah, because like One Punch Man, the whole stick of it is that you have all these people that look overly strong, or they have like their own blah blah blah, and they all fit in like their own little world. And you have one guy who literally just smacks them, to into the cosmos, and then it kind of, hey, like the boring original guy is the one who's the strongest. Kind of like the whole stick of it. So it's like, oh, but don't you want to play a gotcha with like all the characters that you saw in the
Right.
anime and all the side characters? And what about Newman Ryder? Like, don't you want to get him for it? It's like, well, why though? Like, it's just,
Mm.
it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I play a game to see all the characters that are mainly there for slapstick comedy? Right? They're not
Right.
there really for anything else. They're there because the story needs to have more depth to it. It's just like those, even to try to sell that to me doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like and that's why like a lot of the anime based games kind of fall off because they're only hit that niche, and that's why I see like maybe like 5 or 10 games of the same show because it's like they're just trying to find which one's gonna stick. Like, okay, card game, okay, beat 'em up, okay, fighting game, okay, gotcha,
Right.
turn based, whatever. Like they seem like they're always trying to find like what Dragon Ball Z game actually works for people. Like, what can we get people to keep playing one? And it's like, yeah, it's cool, but after a while, you play your Goku, you play your Frieza, you play other people that matter. But at that point, it's like, yeah, but I don't care about every single person. And then there's always gonna be like a cap to that. There's like, oh, there's only like 50 people in the whole show. Okay, well, you can't create more characters because they're all have to be based on the show.
Right.
It's like there's no one else you can put into the game. So it's like you can't make any more content.
We need to find a way to pull Sakurai away from Nintendo so he can do Smash Brothers but for anime.
He just needs to rest.
I mean, yeah, that's what you do. You let him rest, keep him doing his YouTube channel and stuff like that, having fun, and then sneak him away from Nintendo just to do this. I mean, he can still be part of Nintendo, but what I mean, just still do this
No,
as his
but
next big thing.
you know what? But like those type of games, like those little Smash Brothers platform fighter, I think it's a hack that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Like I
Uh,
felt like they kind of did it for Shonen Jump, kind of did it in their Game Boy version, where they did something similar, and then they try to do Jump Force, and I just think it's like, I hate to say it, but copy Super Smash Brothers, make the game work like that, and then find out what you could do different. Like
right.
what could be your stick for it. Like Multiverse, I feel like is a good game. There's some things that I don't like about it that I feel like they need to fix. But overall, like it has a nice breadth of characters. Really easy to kind of pick up. The game designed to kind of keep you into the match as long as possible until like you really get knocked out. It works great. Like, it's like I like it, but it's like that was a good example of like we're not exactly like Super Smash Brothers. Like we know you could tell the difference a little bit,
Right.
but this is what we're expecting. We're expecting, yeah, 2 people or 4 people or whatever fight against each other. But okay, but this one we care about 2-on-2 action. So we give you special bonuses and special quirks and stuff because we want you to always play 2 versus 2 in this game. I was like, okay, cool. That's a very simple formula that I can
Right.
jump into. Um, But when it comes to anime, you also have to play to the characters. Just like in theirs, like if you're gonna play Batman, he has to be Batman 24/7. He has to say
Right.
Batman things, do Batman stuff, throw Batman batarangs. Like he has to. You have to tell that this is Batman. You can't just put a skin in there in that case. And that's why I don't think the Nickelodeon one worked from like for a lot of the feedback and stuff. It was like, yeah, like they had all like SpongeBob and Cora and all these other people, but they all kind of just sounded the same. Like it was just like there's a bunch of people like they're just kind of fighting each other. Like there were just no
Hmm.
real personality to the game.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem with that one was they didn't have any personality because you didn't have any of the voice actors. You didn't have, I don't think you had any of the licensed music for the most part either. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. Like, why am I gonna play this game with these fighting characters or these characters, put them in a
Yeah.
fighting game, and then just not have any aesthetic from them? Like, you, Smash Brothers went above and beyond. Like, when Joker came out for Persona, they did all this crazy stuff to add in and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
that was really the ones that went above and beyond. It's like you don't even have to go that high. You just get the stage, get the character, get, you know what I mean, get the things like that, and you can get something really good going and stuff like that. And you bringing up multiverses, I actually think is a really really good way that like Shonen Jump in particular could bite off that model, do it like a free to play beta form, stuff like that, and I hate to say it, but possibly even add a gotcha system to it, and then just make sure you could actually buy the characters full outright, or else it just for a fighting game it wouldn't work, and you know what I mean, perfectly. So
Mhm.
you give them that option and stuff like that, and you could really start building like a whole scene that way that would actually probably bring in a lot of money.
Yeah. And you know what? Just to kind of like talk about that, like right now in multiverses, you can get Batman and samurai outfit, Batman the 19s like older style anime
Yeah,
version, and now you can get Batman with ugly sweater and mitten gloves.
nice.
And it's like, and to me, I'm all like, that's an obvious sell.
Yep.
Like, it's like, hey, I can get the character for free, or I can work towards to get the character for free, and I'm paying for these skins. I can argue about the price again, how much they cost. But it's like, yeah, I get to see, my favorite characters and like these crazy, skins that are like theme based and stuff like that. To me, that's just an easy sell, like to get right. Just do that and you don't have to do anything else. It's like everything, do anything else, and you're already trying to be complicated, but you have to be faithful to the characters themselves. You
Right.
have to be faithful to the characters and what you're bringing in. And I think, yeah, like you said, Super Smash Bros. Did a great job of that because they weren't thinking about bringing the character; they were thinking about bringing the IP. How do we add the IP? And that's why it was always Super Smash Brothers cross Persona 5, not Super Smash
Right.
Brothers with Joker. It was like a cross, like we're trying to bring in the IP. How do we do the stage? How do we do the music? How was stuff play out and stuff? And yeah, maybe some of it's like, oh, platform, put a movie in the background, and there you go. But like some of them do kind of get into a lot better spirit of it. The
Right.
character does say stuff. The character calls out our sin. Like those things actually matter in a high intensity kind of environment. And like I said, like anime is that's all anime is. Like there's
Yep.
no reason why the Shonen Jump one should have failed, but it failed because it tried to do something else. It's like, oh, we like people doing this, and like, yeah, but no one really kind of cares. I hate to
Yeah.
say it that way. It's like, yeah, there's a card game that's all about bringing like different anime that are not fighting based. It's like, oh, we'll be clan in it or whatever. We'll bring Triple X Holic in. We'll bring, all the stuff that's like you don't see these characters fighting at all, but we'll bring it into the card game because the card games are made like that. They just have special abilities. They don't need to do
Right.
anything crazy. So it worked. And so they just sell a whole set of everything from that, thing. But it's like that's what I feel like platformers are for. They're for cross type games where you can bring in a lot of multi different aspects. And I think anime is like, yeah, you can make a single anime game platform and just bring anime characters in. I mean, that to me, I feel like that's like, that's a kind of a guaranteed sell, especially if the game's good. Then you're going to get
Yeah.
fighting game people to play it.
That, and then you just there's a lot of fans that want to play them, that want to play the game and stuff like that, and so doing a platform fighter just it's so easy to get into and start playing and pick up. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you just press forward, B on this, you do back this, you do it and a little bit this and a little bit of that, and you simplify it in that aspect, and that just it just speaks to the masses, and that's how you create a really good community. And with the options, I guess might be the slight little problem that you might end up having with it, is like if the people start streaming on Twitch and stuff like that, the only thing you could possibly run into, which you could even change that too, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's just like the music getting copyrighted for certain things.
The biggest problem when it comes to it being an anime is the licensing, is the IPs. Because at least like for multiverses, Warner Brothers in itself owns a lot of IP. So they're only going to work with their IP. But
Right.
when you own like Looney Tunes, when you own the entire DC, universe, when you own Game of Thrones and all this other jazz, like stuff from like 20 years ago, when you own all that, then you can make a very exciting game. You could pretty much do the same thing for Disney. Like if you just had a Disney
Yeah.
platform fighting game, it's not like it would have been really hard. It's just you just have to get Disney to kind of think about it and like, hey, you don't. If you're gonna sell a game that's just all about Disney, well, think about this. Think about this. Everybody slapping each other, but the kids, yeah, well, they'll play it. Trust me. Once they get older, they'll
Yeah.
keep playing it. You don't have to sell it to 6 and under. But when it comes to anime, when you're trying to get multiple studios and multiple IP owners and stuff to try, hey, can we just all make a game with all these cool characters? A lot of them are like, no, don't you ever think about it. It's
Yeah.
all like, don't play 3 notes of my song or I'm coming after you. It's just like it, and unfortunately that's how they are. They're just not very acceptable to trying doing those type of partnerships unless people go through loops and stuff. Sora couldn't even come out for Super Smash Brothers until the game after. It's like
Yeah.
he was already decided, like they already knew everybody wanted him, but they couldn't make it until like years after the fact. And it's like that's how long some characters can take because they're always tied to so many things. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I think Shonen Jump has the prime opportunity to do this, at least to get like a good basis going and stuff like that, and have a good start, and
Hmm.
then from there, if they do it right, you know what I mean, you could start branching out and start adding more IPs, kind of like how Nintendo did with Smash Brothers. But it's
Hmm.
just a matter of Shonen's not really a video game company, so that's where you have to get someone else to partner it and license it out, and that's where it becomes a big issue.
Yeah.
So I get that.
And yeah, it's one of those things too, because it's funny because Bandai Namco pretty much makes Super Smash Brothers at this point, like, and they make all the other fighting games. So they have
Yeah.
somebody in their backyard that can really just give it to us, trust us, and we'll take it from here. They can literally do that, but it's the pride of it all. It's like, but it's not what we're doing, and that's not cool. That's not us, and we want it to be us. Even if
Yeah.
nothing happens, if it's not us, then it's nothing. It's Nerf or nothing. It's just like it's one of those things where it's like we don't care how much people want it. But it's just kind of like if we can't do it, we're not going to. And I think that's kind of sad because they don't probably consider the American market. A lot of times when stuff happens in
Yeah.
Japan, just kind of like how like in some cases like we don't consider a lot of the like issues of certain things with tech and stuff here in the United States when we think about like, well, why can't people in Brazil do the same thing, or why can't people in Turkey do the same thing? It's like, well, because import costs and all the other stuff. Not everything's digital. Obviously, my computer's not digital. You have to buy the computer, and
Yeah.
it's not the same price everywhere. There's like actual barriers and of entry to get into it. But it's just like, yeah, but is it worth it? Can we make the transition happen? I think a lot of times in more Japanese culture, that's not a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll think about it, but we're not entertaining it right now. And unfortunately, when it comes to America, it's all like if we don't own it entirely, it's really hard for us to want to do anything.
Right.
But
Go for it.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Are there any whether it's anime based or anime games coming up that you're excited about?
Anime based, no. I honestly a lot of the anime based games that have been coming out, have been so silly to me. Like I've seen like 2 anime this year that had games based off of them. And I'm like, the game only has 2 shows right now, and you're trying to make a whole video game of it. And I'm like, no, that's dumb. It's like just looking at the anime, it's all like it's just a isekai. Like, I'm not gonna play a game just to play like, oh, but you could play the guy and the girls. I'm like, why though? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like the game, I don't even
Right.
know much about who's in here to really be like, oh, I got to get my favorite girl. You know, like it's dumb. Like so, but like other future ones, I really haven't seen too much. Like anime style, anime inspired. Like as I said, like Blue, Protocol was already one that was like, I kind of want to try it as much as I don't really play MMOs, right? Like that kind of really stuck out a lot. Um, I know there's some other ones. I think more got shown off at the Game Awards. I just can't remember every single title.
Right.
Um, I'm ready for Persona 6 for sure. Whenever they decide that it's time to bring that out, but there's some. I know there's some that are like that. That I probably would be down to play it. I bought Star Ocean to try and kind of get into that, so I was kind of into that. Um, I don't know, it's hard right now. Like, I guess I'm like, I gotta try to remember, but like, unfortunately, I'm just not the good database of games that are coming out for the next year, so I can just pull it out. I just now looked at Street Fighter and Street Fighter 6. What other games coming out? Oh, Final Fantasy 16. I think they come out on the same day, and I'm trying to figure
June
out how
6th?
June
6th or
2nd.
3rd?
I
Second. Yeah,
think
you're
the
right.
second.
Second.
I think they
Yeah.
both come out on the second, and I was like, how? Why? That's
Oof.
terrible.
That's rough.
It's terrible for my pocketbook too, man.
Yeah.
Like I
You-
looked at both. I'm not sure if you've seen the
Collectors.
collector's editions because I didn't know Final Fantasy 6 had a collector's edition too. And I was like, oh, all right, how much are these costing? Okay, 250 for Street Fighter 6, and how much does it? $350.
Oh,
Jesus, for the Final Fantasy one,
dang. That's a lot for that one.
exclusive, and the game come out on the same day.
Wow. I haven't seen the Street Fighter one, but I've seen the Final Fantasy one, but that's a hefty price tag.
Mhm. Yeah, but like the Street Fighter one, it had come with like 2 figures and stuff like that. Like I normally do get the Street Fighter ones. I think this one was a little bit harder only because it was like it was only GameStop and you couldn't do like an in-store pre-order. So I'm back
Oof.
and forth on it. You have to do it online. Um, so I'm back and forth on it. The other one I kind of just did get because I'm like, that was Final Fantasy. I actually
Yeah.
kind of like that kind of statue.
Yeah, it looks really
But
cool.
I have the opportunity to back out at any time. That's kind of what matters. It's like because they already
Yeah.
said, yeah, we're not going to charge you till we actually ship it, or a little bit before the game comes out, then we'll process it. So I know
Right.
like they won't process at the same time if I do get them. It's just like that's still a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure. Especially
So
around all the same time.
yeah. So yeah, like I don't remember any other games. I think that one was the one that made the biggest impression on me, to be quite honest. So I'm
I don't
just
blame you.
too excited for that game.
I'm in the same boat. There's actually nothing I'm really excited about besides that one, and I guess you could put it in that kind of aspect, even though it's not fully anime, but would be Final Fantasy 16, just because it has
Mhm.
pretty anime style looking 3D versions of characters. But yeah, that's about it. I just thought maybe maybe there's a gem out there that you might know of.
I mean, there's some games that are kind of happy about, and more like I'll probably hit you up and be like, "Hey, yeah, I do remember this game." Like just kind of how I did for some of the other ones.
Yeah,
Like I was, if anything, like I was telling you, like I was kind of glad that High on Life came out. I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to play that because that did seem like it would be a funny game to play, and it seemed like it has a pretty good rating on it too. So I'm like, oh, should I play that before Elden Ring? Because it's like I
I
can play
think
that right now.
I would say yeah, because my son played it and he was sick the past couple of days stuff of that, and he was able to beat it like in a 2 day sitting, like not like going crazy on it. And then I have another friend who was playing it, and he was really enjoying it and stuff like that too. I read a lot of good things about it, so that might help out with your decision. Be like, because Elden Ring's gonna be a long game. This one you could
Mhm.
probably do it in a weekend setting and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I kind of think about because right now I'm kind of like at the tail end of Pokemon now, finally. But I've been going at it very slow. Like I was not ready for like some like the race stuff that they did. I was like, oh, I'm going a lot slower than most people. But I'm also not streaming it. So I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
have a reason to play it like all day.
Yeah.
But I'm at the end of it. I'm like, oh, I do kind of want to jump on to another game, like just to kind of play something else. Like I have a lot of on a thing, but I was like, oh, I was actually waiting for this game, so I kind of really want to just put it to this because if it is short, then it's kind of like God of War. Like I know God of War is not going to be like a terribly long game, like 20 hours
Yeah.
max is how long that game's going to be. So it's
I
like,
think
oh,
I think it's around. I think it's around High on Life Kids like around 20 hours, maybe even less.
yeah. So I could like, oh, I could considerably go finish God of War the first one. Because I know I was pretty far in it, and then I could just go and play God of War 2. Like to me, like I could conceptually say that's not going to take as much time as, hey, let
Elden
me
Ring.
go, let me go play Elden Ring and or let me play any other RPG because I have bought RPGs, but I'm a little scared to like get into them because I know how long they were, and I'll be
Yeah.
like right now I'm like feeling like, oh, like can I play both games or should I jump to it? I'm like, no, if I jump to the other one, I'm not gonna play it. Like kind of like Gotham Knights. I didn't go back to Gotham Knights once all these other games came back in. It's really hard to kind of do something where like, yeah, I'm kind of interested. I would like to see the end of the game, like how the game ends. But then it's like, yeah, but God of War entered the chat, and
Yeah.
all these other ones kind of entered the chat, and then I kind of want to go back to some older titles. It's just kind of it's really difficult in that aspect. So
I
I'm
feel
sorry to
you.
let you down, homie, but like outside of like Forspoken, some other
No,
games
no,
that are
you're
coming
good.
out in 2023, like I don't know,
You
Tekken 8.
didn't. You didn't let me down. I didn't have any, so I was like, hey, I'll just shoot for the stars and see maybe something pops up.
It's like Tekken 8. I'm kind of excited for because I was looking at that. I was like, yeah, this actually going to look a little bit faster paced than most.
Nice.
What was it? Yeah, I was. If anything, just play Epic 7 with me. Play the animation, boy. uh, but with that, I think we could probably call it time here. I know it's not at the full 2 hours, but you could forgive us. We normally hold y'all after hours
Yeah.
more than this, so forgive us. Well, we'll go ahead and let y'all go a little bit early. It's Friday. It's a pretty good Friday. As you see, we kind of started off in a good mood, and I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit because there's still a lot more things about anime games that really kind of irk me a little bit because there's like I love anime. I like watching it. Me and my wife watch it, a lot. But there are some times where I can't deny some things about it. I can't deny like maybe the little girl shouldn't look like that. Maybe,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's like but I think anime in its entirety is a very good medium. It fills a really good need. I'm glad it's a little bit more popular. I'm glad there's people who can finally admit that they actually like it. And I like when they're actually translated well into video games.
Me too.
Because I feel like they do the best in that aspect. I just wish they would stop being treated as a cash grab. I think that's the best thing. Like, yeah, I like My Hero Academia, but don't make a whole game behind it, and it's just kind of like pinball. Now,
Yeah.
stuff like don't. I don't like it enough to where I'm going to give you like $200. Just don't do that. Don't over sexualize things. There's you can on some aspects, but don't make that like the thing that as soon as I open the door, ooh, don't do that. So I just like, why don't you go kind of do that? Then I'm more likely going to give your game a try. And I think that's kind of where I personally feel at the end of this conversation about it.
Yeah. I'm in a similar boat and stuff like that. I do want now that anime is definitely more of a medium that people are out and about, and it's like a bigger thing now, and it's so much easier to access now too with the streaming services out there. I want to see more games that are a little bit different. Like I said, like do a beat 'em up, maybe do a platform fighter. It's like you have the opportunity now to start expanding on these anime games, stuff like that. It's just right people, right time, that whole situation. So I understand it. This stuff costs a lot of money. The licensing costs a lot of money and stuff like that. So it's not an easy thing to do, and that's why I'm not like on top of the hill, be like, why isn't this done? That's just stupid. But you know what I mean? Like I definitely see the opportunity, and I think it's gonna start happening too in some aspects. As we talked about a little earlier, like the games are getting better in the past 5 years and stuff like that. So there's definitely good promise, and I'm excited that we get to live through it.
Yeah. I would say the good thing about like the time that we lived in, we got to see a lot of stuff being like absolutely at its worst to like actually being
Yeah,
Like, we got to know how stuff was. We could say like, oh, back in my day. At the same time, like, oh, thank
For
God
real.
it changed.
Yeah,
Like we can actually say both.
definitely.
So, with that, I kind of want to kind of end it with that note. Thank you for finishing that off. If you want to see more on the podcast, like you said, everything's going to be audio formatted on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google, Anchor, wherever you kind of have it. We have the link tree in the comments right now. You click for all the social medias and all the platforms that we're on currently right now. We do appreciate y'all for watching us live and joining the conversation. If you want to catch us next time, or if you're looking at this podcast kind of a little bit later, then maybe this is Sunday, maybe this is Tuesday for you. Remember, we on Fridays, 7 p.m. Central Time. I think Chris used 6 p.m. for you, kind of starting like
Yep.
that. But just kind of come on down, join us, and kind of let us know what do you think about anime based inspired or borrowed IP games. It's a nice conversation to kind of open up with. I kind of want to be able to talk to more people about it, but I didn't want to take the time to talk about it in this conversation. So, Chris, thank you for jumping on and talking me with it. And with
Absolutely.
that, if y'all want to see anything else, y'all know where to go. You know where we'll be, and we would be more enthused to see you. With that being said, everybody, thank you for watching us today, and we'll see you next time.